Access Fort Wayne offers reflections of our community. Production facilities provided by Access Fort Wayne are a service of the Allen County Public Library. The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily represent those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting organizations. For more information about creating your own television program with Access Fort Wayne, call 421-1250.
Hello, my name is Patty Hunter, and this is my show, Patty's Page. Welcome. Today, my guest is Terry Doran's brother named Jan Doran. Welcome to my show, Jan.
Thank you, Patty. I'm very glad to be here. I'm very happy that I'm Terry Doran's brother. So.
Oh. Anyways, this guy, is Terry Doran's younger brother. And he's a flautist. He plays Native American flutes, and he does poetry. And what else do you do?
Well, of course, I do poetry, play the flute. I teach Qigong, which is ancient Chinese discipline of acquiring and harvesting and disseminating energy in the body for the healing of your own body and for other people. That's a simple way to put it, but of course, it's a bit more complicated than that, but that's been a big interest of mine for probably the last 3 or 4 years. I've branched into that. Since I've retired, I have more time to pursue these.
You have retired?
Yes, I have retired.
Oh, my goodness.
From working, not from life, but from working.
That's much better.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We have some poetry that was written by Terry Doran, several by Jan Doran, and one by me. So, we will be doing, which flute are you going to be starting?
I think I will start out by playing a flute in the key of G, made by a man named Ken Light, who is one of the, actually, of course he's not Native American, but he's very good friends with Carlos Nakai, who's considered to be the best Native American flautist.
Where is he?
I use that word, flautist. Carlos Nakai is, I think, in near Taos, or at least he spends a lot of time in Taos, New Mexico, and somehow I became friends with Kent Light, and Kent Light makes these flutes. They're very fine pieces of
well done.
Yes, craftsmanship. This is very light wood. It's cedar. You feel that, Patty? It doesn't weigh much at all.
Oh, that is light.
Yes.
How long did it take to make? Do you know?
Usually he takes about 2 weeks for each flute, so he doesn't mass produce them.
Tempered.
Yes, right. And they're not sold until he gets his final, stamp of approval. I called him and asked him to make this flute for me, and a couple weeks later it came. I'm very happy with it. Just a few words before I start. The Native American flute is an ancient instrument. In fact, a flute was discovered in the Anasazi Cave in Chaco Canyon, and it's hundreds of years old, maybe thousands of years old.
Wow.
So the instrument has been around for a while. Of course, it's been changed slightly, maybe modified slightly, but...
that flute that was found many moons ago, was that wood or was that bone?
That was, I believe that was bone. I'm not positive.
Yeah.
It's in a museum. I have not seen the actual flute, but
I would like
read
to
about
see
it. I'm not sure, but they were quite amazed when the archaeologists, they're doing, of course,
it was
research.
Accurate.
Yes.
Accurate, right.
Yeah, quite amazing. So it's an instrument that's been around for a while, and it has very healing, peaceful, some people say haunting sound, and I think it's helped me in the sense of I'm more relaxed, when I play it, after I play it, and a lot of people will say they feel the same way. So it's a very beautiful instrument. Not real well known. Probably Carlos Nakai brought it more attention to it, but still on a mass scale, it's not a real recognized instrument. So you
Well,
get to hear it. Hope you like it.
yeah. What about the other one?
The other one is this is made by a man named Night Eagle, who actually is Native American. And you
That's
see it's
heavier.
quite a bit heavier.
Yeah.
This is a
bigger
flute
too.
in the key of E. And when I play both of these, you'll, of course, hear the difference. It's a little lower tone. Another really beautiful instrument. This is walnut. And
What's that then?
and this one is cedar.
Cedar.
Previous one is cedar.
Okay.
But Night Eagle's a very great. He's in Colorado, Night Eagle. And then there's another flute maker named Odell Borg, who's in Patagonia, Arizona. And I got to visit him and talk with him in his shop, and that was quite a beautiful experience.
Did he teach you how to play it?
Well, I was just kind of in the beginning stages, and I'd been playing maybe 6 months or so. And he has a studio, and then he has also a little shop where he has many flutes that you can play. And I was just kind of playing on my own. I didn't dream that he would walk out. It was a little, but here comes this godlike figure. But he was quite nice, very supportive, and said, how long have you been playing? I said 6 months. He said, well, you're on your way. He said some of this sounds pretty good, and he was very nice. And I was very happy that I got to meet him. Mm-hmm. He's a well-known and respected flute maker and a very good flute player. So, yeah.
So which one are you going to play?
Well, I'm going to start with this appropriately by the man named Ken Light, since it's a light flute. And I don't know if you decided to start with one of my poems.
Well, which one would you like?
Well,
the old well
this
at
is a
Acoma?
poem called "The Old Well at Acoma."
Acoma.
Yeah, and Acoma is the highest elevated city, so to speak. I wouldn't call it a city. I guess it's actually a pueblo in the United States, and one of the oldest settlements. And I visited Acoma, and after visiting Acoma, that was probably about 12 years ago, I saw this photograph by the Native American photographer Edward Curtis. I don't know how well you can see that. Probably not real well on the screen, but it was called "The Old Well at Acoma," and it really struck a chord with me. It resonated with me, and I wrote this poem entitled "The Old Well at Acoma." And as I play, I think you'll kind of get the idea of what I was trying to accomplish, I think, in this poem. And I also got to meet Simon Ortiz, is his name, one of the great Native American poets.
Oh.
And he was from Acoma, and that was also quite an honor. So I'll go and play.
Acoma?
I pronounce it Acoma, but
Acoma?
if that's wrong, then you can blame it on me. How's that? All right.
Okay. So you lead in, and
I'll just lead in, begin playing a little bit, Patty, and you can begin reading. I'll try to play softly so we don't overpower. And as predicted, I did not remove my clip. I wanted to make sure everybody was right. All right.
it's okay. The old well at Acoma. The woman drawing water saw themselves as the world, holy and reflected. Leaving sacred shadows, one carried the water jar as if carrying a newborn child, while others, joining hands and hearts, balanced the liquid worlds, walking as one to the sun, moon, and star pair, where the old and new singers welcomed the spirit water, knowing the secret under the deepest spring, eternity slow, undulated. Before there were land people to carry the water, to dance and to hear the song. Even before the very first people, seeing themselves reflected, lowered their heads above the water and heard the earth singing by Jan Doran. Undulated was the word I should have said. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to muck it up.
All right.
I have another one here.
Okay.
It's Native Power that I wrote. Which one would you like to use?
I think I'll use.
The soft or the heavy?
Yes, I'll use the key of G again. Play it softly.
It's a short one.
What's that?
It's a short one.
Okay.
Short one.
Yep.
Native power. Having native power is to be one with the great Creator. The Creator is God, the one who has made all living things on this globe. A true warrior knows when to be peaceful and when to strike his enemies. A true warrior knows the truth about life, when to love and when to fight. All knowledge comes into this world has been given to us by the great Creator. The great Creator is the all that there is, the great I am that I am, and no one else is greater than Him. By me, I wrote this. Would you like to come over? We'll talk more about the other poetry that we have here.
Sure.
So, the next one, it's a short one, well, not that short, but it's a good one. It says, I am a beggar. I'm going to show this picture of the little statue, figurine. So, yeah, what's it called again?
And just,
What's it about?
yeah, that shows, at least when I can see, that's good. That's a good picture. This poem was probably inspired by my work with Qigong and energy, and it's a poem about Qi or energy. So
Yeah. Well, you write good.
thank
You're
you.
a very good writer.
Very,
Just almost as good
very
as
nice
me.
of you.
No, just as better than me. You've been at this longer than I have.
Oh, I've been writing poetry probably since about the age of 20, about 80 years ago. I mean, I'm sorry, how long? But anyway.
Okay. Do you want to read it?
I'll read this one.
Okay.
This poem is called Today I Am a Beggar. Today I'm a wonderful nobody, going nowhere, without foolish desires to be somebody. I'm a beautiful beggar, begging for Qi, begging for release from my life story, a convoluted film with a confused self. I am begging for a torrid affair with Qi, the power and love I once knew, long before I began drinking the poisonous cocktail of who I think I am.
All right. Explain that.
Thank you.
Please explain that. It's beautiful.
Oh, explain that one. Well,
It's a good one. It's good.
yes. Well, you got me. No, I think. Well, Qigong, the discipline that I teach, has a lot to do with Taoist philosophy, and Taoist philosophy, in turn, has a lot to do with maybe looking at things in a different way, realizing that a lot of our opinions, our viewpoints, are produced from our conditioning and things that we may not be aware of, so that when you get into this kind of philosophy, you begin to think about things in a different way, and you begin to realize how tenuous so-called truth is, and you best be very careful when you get attached to a certain philosophy, a certain story, a certain idea, because they all spring for the most part from the society we are in, from the factors that influenced us, and maybe not necessarily in a positive way when we were younger. So you look at things in a different way. For example, this idea of beauty and ugliness. They're just opposites of a combined harmony. So that in our culture, beauty, of course, is worshipped, especially beauty in women, but even in men. But an example of a story that turns this on its head. This concerned a Chinese young man who was in a small village province in China. And the story was told by a man who's living now, and I think it was like his great grandfather.
Was he the one that started Qi? How old is?
Oh, Qi, by the way, is it's an ancient discipline, thousands of years. And it's been it's been around, so to speak, for a long time.
China?
So yeah, from China, as far as we know, it originated in China. Who influenced the Chinese in that direction? I don't know. But all that we know is that from the readings that we have is that its origin was in China. I have my, I wouldn't say even that, which is an accepted truth, is necessarily true. It may have been some other culture that influenced China in some way. We don't know for
we
sure.
all interact.
Yes, they do, in more ways than
So
we think. But anyway, this small province in China, the army came into town. They wanted only the strongest young men, the most muscled, conditioned young men. And they took about 10 men from the village, maybe, 100 or so men. And the one young man was quite disappointed that he had not been chosen, because it was an honorable thing to fight in that day. So he was upset about that. And about 3 days later, the word came from a messenger that all 10 of those chosen, privileged few, those so-called beautiful young men, were horribly decimated and butchered in a battle.
Okay.
So he said, this man said to me, the moral of the story, weak is beautiful. So that is an example of turning normal thinking on its head. There are many other examples where we're caught in a certain web of conditioning. So that poem has a little bit to do with that, because it talks about the poisonous cocktail of who I think I am, and that's all it is, or it was. I don't have those cocktails running through my system, at least to the same degree as they used as
talking about
happened in the
spiritual?
past. Well, I'm talking about convoluted thinking, which produces polluted spiritual thinking too, spiritual beliefs sometimes.
From the
but
heart.
Yeah, and so this whole thing of beginning to realize of these things that were impacting me that I wasn't aware of. And the thing about Qi is a primal energy, and it has nothing to do with thinking. It has nothing to do with how much money you have. It has nothing to do with whether you're married, divorced. Yes, it has a lot to do with how you react to certain situations, what your center is, what your Qi is. So it really has no connection with these pollutants that so bother us in our Western society, and that's why it's a wonderful, beautiful thing. It has no worries. It's just primal energy. That's sort of what I was trying to get at in the poem.
Now you're going to play that other.
Yes, I am.
Thing. Can you do before I do Terry Doran's Fading Memories? Could you do a number on that?
Sure.
That lower one.
Yes. Would you like to read while I do it, or you just want me to?
Sure. This is a long one, so you're going to.
All right. I'll try to keep up. All right.
Okay, sure. Off you get. Take it off.
There we go again. Guess I better work on my remembering Qi.
It's okay.
Right.
He's going to do a flute number while I say a poem that was written by his brother Terry Doran. Okay, here we go.
All right.
Fading Memories. I can see him now, Uncle Harry in that little room. making sounds of life on the banjo, with fingers that could see even if the eyes could not, and pointing with pride to the birdhouse those fingers made. And we walked and talked hand in hand to the barber shop, to look good for a world he could not see. And Grandma made quilts and pies. Oh my, the house is a mess. A gray-haired lady with pride in what she does and who she is, and love for the boy who spent his summers in Peru. I can hear her now. Drink the milk and have another egg. Grandpa rode to the factories night after night till nights became years and a job became life. On a bicycle, I can see him now, white curly hair down the block, a little black clip on around his right cuff rolled up to protect him from a fall. Throwing a ball against the house, playing the game of fantasy, dreaming I was in the big leagues. Visiting the old second-hand store of musty smells of stale clothes of a generation back. The big clock on the wall chimed me to sleep by the hour, between the white, clean sheets and rain falling down softly on the roof. The house is empty now. The banjo lies quietly. The birds go to another place, and the clock no longer ticks. Resting there amongst the smell of stale age and faded quilts, empty pie pans, and a battered ball and rusty clip, with a second-hand clothes of a generation back, tarnished dreams and long-gone pride, make all too fresh the memories of good times, and the thought of growing old in an empty house where the clock no longer ticks. By Terry Doran. Thank you, Terry. It's a beautiful poem about your uncle and your uncles. Tell me about your Uncle Harry. And here it says was he blind?
Yes. He was an amazing, otherworldly man. He was almost a figure from another dimension to us because he was, of course, blind, and he was somewhat maybe set apart from the other figures in that family constellation. My grandmother and my grandfather, and there was Uncle Harry, but he always amazed us with the things that he could do. And I think Terry put it so well in his poem when he said, with fingers that could see, even if the eyes could not, which is, I think, a great line. And he had a untaught, otherworldly talent with a violin.
Oh, wow.
He would play that often late at night, and it was a beautiful thing. And perhaps, in retrospect, I think maybe Uncle Harry was one of my first lessons in the precious pearl that lies deep within our body shell. That the outer shell is not so important, because he wasn't quote whole, as I saw a whole person in those days. But
how long
he was a beautiful
blind?
figure.
Was he blind?
Ever since I was a very young boy.
Oh, okay.
And,
So it's just
it was an
natural.
accident,
Oh.
and he carried the handicap, or so to speak, that what we would view as a handicap, beautifully, without self-pity, with power, dignity, grace. Wonderful, wonderful person.
I bet you were proud of him.
I was very proud of him, and my grandmother, of course.
Of
Was
course.
both Terry and I. Our grandmother was a life-saving figure to us, and to go to that house was in Peru, Indiana, where Uncle Harry and my grandmother and grandfather was redemptive. It was soul enriching, and we were young children. It was very, very beautiful. So Terry's poem, I think, is a great tribute to that whole
And
thing.
your poems that you did for the Native Americans, as well as for finding peace from within, is beautiful as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's going on towards the end of the half hour.
Oh, no, already? Wow.
Oh, my stars.
Yes. Do we have much time left?
We have about 2 minutes left.
Okay.
So is there anything you'd like to say to the audience about yourself? Or
Well, I think a lot of the when I look back, okay, what sort of what were the influences that propelled me in the direction of poetry, playing the flute, teaching qigong, all things which are a little bit out of the mainstream.
Right.
And of course, I had a groundbreaking brother who was not exactly part of the mainstream. And,
Terry?
Yes, Terry. So
Now
you
tell
had
me all about Terry.
had
No,
quite
later.
a powerful influence on me. And as I said, I started writing poetry probably about the age of 19, 20, somewhere around there. And I guess I learned at an early age. There's more to life than slapping a steak on the grill and drinking a Budweiser. In fact, I think your next guest is going to talk a little bit about things that are out of the usual dimension. And I've always had an interest in those kinds of things that are just what I call a non-ordinary reality. And even, and I don't mean to speak so much about the paranormal even, but just things like art, poetry. They're not part of our usual reality. They can enrich our reality tremendously, but they're just not part of the mainstream.
Well, Jan, I'd like to thank you. This
Thank you.
is Jan Doran
Thank you.
of the Doran brothers, and they're all genius, very talented people.
Now, do you have that? That statement is on record, right?
It is on record.
Sorry.
So thank you for coming
Thank you.
onto my show, Jan.
Yep.
And thank you, audience, for coming and listening to us. His flute playing was beautiful. And thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Have a great day and see you next week.